Welcome back everyone, it's Charlie. This is going to be my new Marvel X-Men video. We have amazing news. Turns out Marvel is taking new pitches for X-Men series on Disney+. So I'll explain what's going on, what the details are, and what the timeline on this is. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get all the videos. There's a bunch of really big stuff coming up, and what'll happen is when they start airing brand new episodes, I'll start doing more giveaways for Disney+ subscriptions. I'll just number these as we go along just to stay organized, but if you didn't see the news this past week, it turns out Marvel is starting to develop pitches for new X-Men Disney Plus series already. Still very early in the development phase, but one of the first ones that they're apparently talking about behind the scenes, super deep cut here, is a revival of X-Men the animated series. The producers recently just did a big Wizard World virtual panel where they said that they've been having talks with Marvel about bringing the series back for new episodes. They just did the exact same thing with Star Wars The Clone Wars Season 7, some of the best, most polished, crisp-looking animation you've ever seen, and storylines. Dave Filoni is a master of the craft. They just did the same thing over at Warner Brothers in the DC universe with Young Justice Season 3 and now Season 4 they're getting ready to make. So it's not a brand new concept, launching a brand new streaming service and bringing back a lot of classic titles, reimagining them with new episodes. They said this all started a couple years ago and they knew that Disney Plus was going to be a thing, and they knew that Marvel would be getting the X-Men characters back from Fox right after Avengers Endgame. They knew they'd be developing live-action movies with new MCU versions of the X-Men characters and new live-action TV series for Disney Plus with X-Men characters, so it was only a natural fit that they would do more animated programming. Kevin Feige has already revealed his very first animated Marvel Studios project, like first big budget animated series. That's the Marvel What If TV series that they teased back at D23 with all that footage. But one of the earlier roadblocks that they ran into is that this all started when Fox was still in the middle of releasing X-Men Dark Phoenix, which kind of slowed down MCU X-Men things just a little bit. Mostly just because of the backlash against that movie was so big. People were just so upset with the way they ended that franchise after Logan had been amazing. Like, you could do an amazing Wolverine movie and the Deadpool movies were doing so well. Why can't you do good X-Men movies? Hardcore X-Men fans will always love new movies no matter what, but there's just so much fatigue with those mainstream X-Men characters, and Kevin Feige had already developed this full Marvel Phase 4 slate of movies and TV shows for Disney+. That way back at Comic-Con, Feige implied that they were just going to chill on mainstream X-Men characters, even the Fantastic Four, until they could find some banger stories to do. The way he talks about it during this interview is that he just wants to give them the debut that they deserve in the MCU, which just means that it's going to take them a while to find the right script.
Fantastic Four. What story are you going to tell that hasn't been told yet?
All of that is spoilers, but I'm extremely excited about those characters and about bringing Marvel's first family up sort of to the platform and the level that they deserve.
Are you anywhere near casting?
No. No.
Story? No.
No. No. See all the stuff we did today?
But you dropped all these teases.
I just said we didn't have time to talk about it.
So that's him mostly talking about the live action stuff. This is where all the animated X-Men stuff comes in. The animated series has always been viewed as a wholly separate thing, completely different from the live action stuff, and the original series was canceled at the height of its popularity back in the 90s. Had it not ended when it did, it would have continued for at least a couple more seasons. It wasn't canceled because it wasn't getting good ratings or it wasn't making money. It was super popular, but it was airing on the Fox network. Some of you may remember watching it after school back in the 90s. It aired in the afternoons just like some of Fox's other classic 90s animation. Couple other minor series airing in that same block of programming around the same time on Fox, like Spider-Man the Animated Series, Batman the Animated Series, then Batman Beyond after that. And speaking of the 90s Spider-Man the Animated Series, the main actor from that who voiced Peter Parker actually did talk about coming back during the new Spider-Verse movies. He's totally ready to come back. Late last year and early this year, before the virus had brought everything to a screeching halt, Disney Plus had actually debuted a bunch of special new artwork and avatars for X-Men the Animated Series, so it just seemed like they were getting ready to announce some new big projects or do something special with X-Men the Animated Series. Right now, all the basic episodes are on Disney Plus, so you can watch them right now, but the series has never been remastered for HD or released on Blu-ray or anything like that. So early timeline, what they would probably do is they would remaster the original episodes first, then greenlight new episodes, and then they bring back all the original actors to just pick up where they left off. Because right now the producers said that Marvel's still trying to decide what they want to do with the series, but all the original actors are ready to come back, and they would want to pick up exactly where the series left off. So if you don't remember, X-Men the Animated Series ended with Season 5. The final episode was basically Lilandra coming from the Shi'ar Empire to help save Professor X. Magneto had almost secured mutant supremacy all over the world, so he was getting ready to achieve his ultimate goal, but Professor X lay dying, so Lilandra came to basically try and preserve his consciousness to transplant it to another body to allow him to survive, but then they go off to the Shi'ar Empire, leaving the X-Men characters to just wonder if he would survive, and that's the ending. It was a very emotional episode, so it was a great series finale, even though they hadn't originally planned it to be the series finale. Fox canceled the series before they could plan Season 6, so you were just left to wonder what was going to happen next. But had they gotten the Season 6 renewal, they would have just started with Professor X's consciousness being transplanted into another clone body by Lilandra. They kind of did a version of this, if you remember, during X-Men The Last Stand in the live-action movies. They kind of rebooted that continuity. The X-Men timeline, as Deadpool says, is so confusing, so they retconned some of the elements of that film. But during the events of X-Men The Last Stand, Jean Grey goes full Dark Phoenix and kills Professor X in her childhood home, and you spend the rest of the movie thinking that he's dead and gone. But then, at the end of the movie, there's a post-credit scene where Moira McTaggart is standing near a comatose patient in a hospital and then freaks out when the person speaks with Professor X's voice.
Hello, Moira.
Charles.
It just implied that Professor X had transplanted his consciousness into this new body, allowing him to survive. So Professor X's body jumping isn't a totally new concept. They kind of swept all that under the rug when they got to X-Men Days of Future Past, but the idea is still there. Professor X is still powerful enough. There are other telepaths in the universe that are powerful enough to transplant his consciousness into other bodies. And even though I don't expect him to come back, Patrick Stewart did say that he had meetings with Kevin Feige and Marvel about doing new Professor X inside the MCU now that they've gotten the rights back. But the way he talks about it is very similar to the way that Hugh Jackman talks about coming back as Wolverine. Both of them were so happy with what they did and what they accomplished with the Logan movie. It was such a great story that they feel like it would be weird to come back now. But that doesn't mean that he wouldn't come back to do some voiceover. He's just talking about actually appearing as a live-action version of Professor X on screen. So when we see brand new Professor X, it'll probably be a recast or it'll be James McAvoy coming back. I'm fully expecting most of them to be recast. Deadpool, Ryan Reynolds, is one of the few immune characters. Mostly what's happening right now with a lot of that is that Marvel is just talking with all the other major actors about whether or not they want to come back at all. So I think they're still considering who they're going to recast and who will survive the jump from the Fox Marvel universe. Although we've been talking about what the story of Deadpool 3 is going to be, I would love to see them do Deadpool kills the Fox Marvel universe as just a way to explain what happens to all that continuity when we pick up with X-Men inside the MCU. As for what the story would be for brand new episodes, they could totally do House of M, they could do Avengers versus X-Men, that we're talking about doing X-Men and Avengers in the MCU in the live-action movies, and they could also adapt the whole Dawn of X storyline that they're doing in the X-Men comics the past couple of years, which is sort of a reimagining of the X-Men's backstory in the Marvel Universe. Let me know in the comments, though, they do a revival of X-Men the Animated Series with brand new episodes. Which big comic book stories do you want them to adapt for that they haven't already done on the animated series? While you wait for everything, click here for that really funny Deadpool, Wolverine, X-Men reunion video that Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman did. And click here for that brand new Marvel Shang-Chi movie teaser and Iron Man Easter eggs. Thank you so much for watching. Everyone stay safe. I'll see you guys tonight.